I need to check my audio. Okay, I've got some audio there. The Gilliard. Let's see. What is it? The Gilliard Group.
This one?
Mm-mm. What is it? How much time we got?
1 minute.
It didn't work for you? Or you were just scared?
No, I had to turn it around because the camera was at the bottom.
Oh.
So it was like, if you go on live, I'll just share your feed.
Do I need to switch over to OBS? That's my premium channel.
I just need to find.
Right.
This is.
What I need to do, go to.
No, don't switch it. Just what is your.
Dude, that's what you right here. Okay.
Where did it go? Oh, your Chrome?
Yep.
Okay. Michael Gillard. It's under your name. It's under your name.
Your channel.
Don't leave because it's gonna cancel your.
Because see, I hadn't posted from this one. So if I need to switch over to the other one, do OBS.
No, I just need to find your channel.
This is my channel. Cancel. Any other suggestions? Any other suggestions?
5:30. So let's get started with our meeting for this first day of August, 2022. Clerk, are we ready? We're ready. Trying to find my public speaking sheet here. Okay, it appears as though we do have some speakers after the meeting, but none before the meeting. So at this time, we will call our meeting to order. Our invocation will be delivered by Councilmember Lloyd Holton Jr. this evening. It will be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. We're going to ask you to please stand and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let us pray. Dear gracious God, we thank you for all your blessings. Praise you for your grace and for your mercy. Lord, as we gather here today, to your citizen's agenda, we pray that we can on all one accord. We pray for peace throughout this land. Your will be done. Forgive us of our sins. Lord, this is our prayer tonight. Thank you. And everyone said together, amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. Madam Clerk, may we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Mays?
Here.
Councilmember Holton Jr.?
Here.
Councilmember Brown Jr.?
Here.
Councilmember Lockett? Councilmember Whitfield?
Here.
Councilmember Alexander? Here. Councilmember Brown Senior?
Here.
Councilmember Shanger?
Here.
Okay, it looks like there's 100% in attendance this evening. Thank you all so much for that. Next, we'll move into our approval of minutes for the July 18th, 2022. It's been moved, properly moved and second that we accept the minutes as presented. All in favor of this motion, let it be known by saying aye. Any opposed? Minutes stand approved. We want to move into our committee reports, and our first report will come from Ways and Means. Councilmember Mays, Councilmember Brown Jr., substitute.
Thank you, Mayor. Ways and Means met just before this. Tonight we have 3 budget adjustments. It should be one in front of you that was added. The first budget adjustment is coming from Parks. The total budget adjustment is $67,133. It's coming from various line items within the department, and it's going to repair maintenance grounds for J.C. Bluff, uniform expense, capital purchases. I move that we approve this budget adjustment.
Is there probably moved and second that we approve a budget adjustment coming from the Parks Department in the amount of $67,133. The floor is open for discussion. Councilmember Whitfield.
Thank you, Mayor. To this council, I'm against this budget adjustment for several reasons. First reason is that we had a meeting and I'll discuss that during my report on the third Wednesday of every month, and he failed to show. I think anytime you're moving this kind of money, you ought to be able to justify it to this without asking questions. If I'm not mistaken, and I hate that, I think maybe our financial here, as well as our auditor. This is the third major. I think a month ago, we did a budget adjustment for $121,000 for the same department. And I'm saying we are wasting taxpayers' dollars. And we know it, and let me give you an example. We got this budget adjustment tonight from the street department, from the hall. My understanding, we have 40 to 60 golf carts at the golf course. But it's not open. It costs us $5,000 or $6,000 a month. And we steady allow him to move money without justification. Never come to the committee because he don't want to ask the question. And I think this is wrong. At the beginning of the year, when Moss and Steps did they're looking over our budget, as well as myself, and I think all the woman Alexander, she can correct me if I'm wrong. We talked about the Parks Department budget being so big and padded. All this money coming from this splash park, nothing has happened. And we continue to this money. Mayor, and to this council, that is not right. We're covering up for his shortcomings, and he's spending money like we're growing. And I'm asking you all, unless there's an emergency that can be presented to us tonight, that we don't pass this budget adjustment. This is the third one, and he said to us, I think we gave him almost $500,000 the first of the year, that he would not come back to us till the end of the year with any additional money. Now he's moving money for the third time. And we just said, that's passed. I am totally against it. I just want you all to really look at what he's doing with this money without justification. That's just not right.
Man,
Councilmember.
Mr. Glover, he has to leave, he can answer that question.
I would love for him to.
Mr. Bluff, coming up. As I looked at this budget adjustment, I did notice that most of it is going for equipment.
Evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Proceed, you can proceed with your questions.
Well, we're gonna do it that way. You came to us the first of the year, I think we gave you over $500,000 for the parks, improvement, those type of things. You said it would not be bad. A month and a half ago, we did another request for $121,000. I was not here at that meeting, and they gave you, this council gave you the blessing then. And now we're coming back to move 67,000. But that's concerning me, and you failed to come to your committee meetings. But my first question to you would be, is it true that we have 40 to 60 golf carts at JC, not JC, at the park?
Right.
How much it costs a month?
Roughly 3 to 5,000.
$3,000 to $5,000, and the golf course not open. So why would we go into a contract to get 40, how many, is it 40 or 60?
60.
We got 60. Why would we have a 60 card contract and the course is not first thing?
Okay, so we have to go into that contract because the course is coming open. It's not like it's gonna be open in 2023.
Can you pull your mask down so we can hear what you're saying? Most, this is very important. Thank you, sir.
The course is going to be open this year. And what we can't afford to do is try to wait until the week before it's getting ready to be open and then say, let's get some carts, because that's not gonna be efficient. Or if you remember in the Public Works meeting in August, I brought an entire plan out to you, we laid it out, we said that we would be able to open the course by the end of July, mid-July into August. Well, those plans have changed. We had to move it on into the fall, but it's still gonna open. And you have to have all of those things in place for there to be golf played. So we really just moving forward with the plans as stated. Nothing new or, I don't, pocket here, we're just moving right along with the program that we laid out before the Public Works Committee. We gave everyone a copy and emailed it. I believe it was, April the 21st.
That you,
So-
you saying you gave us, saying that you was gonna go into a contract with 60 golf carts,
No,
and we approved it, is that what you telling me?
what I'm telling you is that we told you when the golf course would open, so remember,
Is it
the
open?
course is going to open this fall.
What
We
month?
need carts for them to open. Well, listen, this is a contracting job, so we have to factor in weather, all of those things, so it's totally irresponsible for me to get up here and say, we're gonna open September the 1st. And then we open the 31st, and you say we didn't get it done. I'm gonna do that, we're gonna say that moving forward, we are right on schedule. We have our gentleman coming in, he's gonna continue to work on the greens tomorrow. Followed by a week after that, we have another gentleman coming in, we're right on schedule, and the schedule was given to Public Works 3 or 4 months ago. We don't, once we give a plan, we give it information, we move forward with the work. So, the next question, I think you asked, what was your next question? I don't want to get anything off.
For the sake of time, Mayor, if this council is gonna allow this young man to put us into a $5,000 a month contract, probably already for 3 months or 4 months, since we received the golf course back. So by the time they open up, we'll have about 7 or 8 months of golf carts out there that's not being used. If it's okay with this council,
Okay, so I will say this, just for understanding. If you recall, Councilmember Whitfield, we are going to redo the greens at Harbor Oaks and JC. So when we finish Harbor Oaks, JC Golf Course is gonna have to close for at least 2 months. We have equipment that we lease over there that we also pay every month. It will literally be the same thing. That course is gonna be closed, and we're gonna have to pay that lease to keep that equipment so that when it reopens, we can use it. It's really pretty standard.
what's your response, Mayor, to this council? I'm standing here saying that it makes sense for us to be in a $5,000 a month contract, but we're not using the car. Somebody is making money, and the city's getting it. Thank you, Mr. Glover. Please come to the next, Public Works meeting.
Well, hold on.
Any more questions from Mr. Glover? Councilman.
Can you, I pondered this whole week by two, you gave it to me, this paper. And I kept them. It just didn't feel right within me. I pondered it. And, going through the golf course out there, it looked terrible. You can't even, the speed breakers or tearing up people's cars. The parks just look bad. I mean, in a city like this, they look terrible. And, calling me, man, what's wrong with the golf course? What's wrong with it? We spend a lot of money. And when you go out there and if you just take your time, hit some big bumps out there in the road, you got to tear your car. And look at all the money we done spent and you really can't see the money. You can't see the money we spend it. I mean, nobody's out there playing golf, nobody's out there in the park. I mean, I couldn't even sleep last couple of nights. I was thinking about this. What should I do? And I've got the answer for you. It's both no. Because it's not working. I sit in those places should make some money. And they just sitting there empty. I mean, don't believe this ride I did. The ride out there to the road, this ride. Look at our golf course. See, can we do better? Now we gotta wait, what, 3 months now, 4 months, you saying? What do you think?
Excuse me, Councilmember, is your question, can we do better, or do you have another question?
Well, can we do better?
Of course, we can always better.
Making it look better, getting people from around the county to come over and find out play golf. I don't get it. It's just, something just not working.
So, we're doing the best we can, and we're working toward the goals that we set. And as you see, that budget adjustment, that money is for JC Golf Course and the irrigation system. So if you feel like that's not worth it, and that we don't need equipment in Parks and Recreation, even though we fixed a bat wing that is over 15 years old, maybe 50 times this year, if you don't think we need any of that, and we don't need to do the things that are in the budget adjustment, then that is your prerogative.
Are you saying we didn't appropriate money already for the JC irrigation system? We not done it in the past.
We have not appropriated any money for irrigation at the JC Golf. We had a grant that we were going to use, but we moved that to another direction.
Tell us where? That was more important?
Through Parks and Recreation, everyone at this council and even in the book is at liberty to look at our budget and our spending at any time. Set up a meeting with Ms. Roberts, and you can look at our budget and you can set a meeting with me and we'll go line by line. But what I do know is that we have been very careful and good stewards of the taxpayers' money. I did an audit ourselves and I'll go to my seat. 90% of the dollars we spent this year have gone back to local and small businesses. Have you looked at that? 90% from everywhere you can think of, from everything, because we have to work in so many different facets, Councilmember. And it is not our intent to not be transparent in any of those things. All of this information is available at the finance department. And I am readily available for anyone who wants to sit down and go through every dollar. And you'll see, and then we can go on a tour. And I'll take you, Councilmember Mays, so that you can see exactly what we're doing. Because the fact of the matter is, there is too much work to be done and not enough money to go around. And that's in every department. Thank you.
Well, hold on, I rode through the park and I called some people and asked them to go ride through the park. Then I didn't believe what I just saw. And they rode through it and they said, man, they can't even get through the park. They can't cruise through the park. I understand, I mean, can we do better?
Do you mean, are you referring to the speed bumps?
You gotta bumps.
Well, I think that was put there because, there were some issues out there. People were speeding through the park. You had kids out there. and protect the safety of the citizens, the speed bumps are necessary in order to make sure
I'm
that.
just, I'm asking the citizens, just ride through there for yourselves, just ride through the park, don't tear your cars up, but just ride through with your feet. You know, it's just, we gotta do better. It seems like we just do stuff just to slow this city up. And let me tell you something, and we're gonna speed this city up where it's supposed to be. We got people in charge, it's not doing their job. It needs to be known, this city looks a mess. But we're making progress, but it still looks a mess.
You know, and I don't want every time Mr. Glover comes up there.
I'm not blaming him, I'm just blaming the people in charge need to take charge
Right.
of this city.
Well, let me say this, I feel like the things that we have on this budget adjustment are doing, referring to is trying to improve the parks and make it better. I don't see anything on here that's a purchase, that's just something we really don't need. Everything here are things that we need to have for our parks.
Sir, that sounds good, but let me tell you something, we spend a lot of money in our community from this council. And to look at the town, the way it looks out there, the roads, you go try to fix a road, there's always some kind, not necessarily fixing the potholes, but just the roads in general and things.
Let's
So
just try to
it's-
stay-
Let me finish,
let's try to
Mayor.
stay
Let me
on
finish,
point.
because what I'm seeing is always somebody trying to block something. Like I'm trying to talk right now, let y'all know what's going on as a citizen. Ride your cars on these streets. Y'all tired, if you don't have new tires, you're gonna tear your cars up. It takes them a week to fix a pothole. Come on, man. Why don't y'all get with the program?
We are, we're fixing parks now, we'll get your streets like.
Well, the streets go through the park. Just get with the program, it looks terrible. Now, ask the citizens for yourself what they see.
Can we approve this budget adjustment or not approve it, either way?
I haven't saved, I don't have. You know, like, I try to stay in my lane as a council member. I do have some concerns with Parks and Rec regarding day-to-day operations, but I'll wait until the budget season, because last time when there was a budget adjustment, I did feel like it was a padded budget, because you shouldn't be able to move this much money, but because, you're moving it to do more things within the parks, I'm not here. I'm not here to micromanage Parks and Rec, but come next budget session, I will be more apt to more cuts. And Mr. Glover, I don't know your intent, but your whole demeanor up here was very, almost kind of unapproachable, and I wonder if you talk to the council like that, how is it for customers calling Parks and Rec? You know, and I get it can be frustrating sometimes, but it's even more frustrating for us having to deal with so many things that can be nipped in the bud. And I was looking forward to you attending, is it Public Works? He incurred that Parks and Rec is supposed to be reimbursing them back, but I'm going to.
Mayor, and to Parks and Rec. I've always said, I don't like budget adjustments unless there was a fire. And kind of they call them budget supplements or supplemental budgets. The things that are requested here, were they not needed in November or December? When budget time was in budget time? See, that's what gets, I think they can do that constantly every year. So, okay, I shoot this in there, like, oh, I'll go in budget time, I'll shoot this in there for a budget adjustment, and, you know, they'll just overlook it and it'll ride right on through. And that's really not the way it's supposed to be. It's no need to have a budget if you don't stick with it. But people, every year, they'll wait till sometimes 3 months, a lot of times they wait till after 6 months, they're like, oh, we need this for that. But I think that if you do a budget, unless there's a fire or a total disaster, I think you need to live with that budget until the next year and be reminded of the things that you want in the middle of the year and put them in the budget for the end of the year. That's how I feel, but every month we come in here and we do budget adjustments or, and kind of use budget supplements or whatever. And I just don't, unless it was something that came up as a remedy, a tiller or something, or we need, you know, something that we just had to have. I'm not gonna understand the budget adjustment, but These people just standing want a budget just because they know that it's possible for it to pass. It's unreal to me. So let's just think about it like this. Why do a budget? I know the states have to have one. Why give you a budget if you're not gonna go by that budget? It just doesn't make sense to me. Thank you.
And let me say this here, and I'll be through. I won my reelection, thank you citizens, in the fourth ward, the city of Pine Bluff. But a lot of money is being spent, and Go Forward Pine Bluff is trying to control this city through Simmons Bank. And we let them do it. And y'all need to stop being so afraid of them. I'm telling you. Ride on these streets. Don't try to block it out your system, block it out your eyes, what you see in your cars. But if you don't have some good tires around here, you have a flat every day. And y'all know them right. We can't fake this stuff. I don't know what y'all thinking. And the citizens paying taxes on everything. Let me tell you something. I see what y'all doing, and it's wrong. Why do they got real and you need to vote whoever's not helping y'all, vote them out of office. Call them on their phone, call them every day. If they don't respond, vote them out of office. And then don't call me talking crazy no more when you let the ones sit up here. They sitting up here and don't help you. And then when y'all want to talk crazy, some of y'all want to talk crazy to me. Because I'm trying to help you. I'm talking, Mayor. They not doing nothing for y'all. They need to listen to it too, because they're going to live here in Palm. We're going to make sure of that. No, I'm just saying, I'm sick of it, and y'all don't need to be sick of it too. All of them dressing good, they're driving good, they're living good on y'all, and you paying all the things, your water bills and your gas bill. Somebody need to stand up around here. All of them people just up. We're in a meeting, and look at them. Look at what they got 4 or 5 cars in the yard, 6 and 7 big old houses. Think what they're doing.
Audience, I'm going to ask you to please refrain.
They're taxpayers, they're citizens. I'm done. Just listen to what I'm saying. Those that have ears, the Bible says, let them hear.
I'm a little offended. We get paid the same $13,000 a year that you do. And I'm sorry that some of us are blessed abundantly.
Well,
but it ain't no need for you to have that kind
I'm
of
saying the
commentary.
citizens, listen to what the citizens are
What
saying.
does that have to do with
Their streets,
the
it doesn't matter what we make, their
What
streets are saying that.
transformative legislation have you passed? What transformative budgets have you passed? None.
Councilman
Ride
Robinson.
on the streets.
Well, do something about
Councilman Mann,
legislation.
let's stop it. Let's have order. We've had all the discussion that we need on this budget adjustment. We've had enough discussion to go. All in favor of this budget adjustment, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed,
No,
roll call, please.
Councilmember May,
no,
Councilmember Holcomb Jr.,
Aye.
Councilmember Brown Jr.,
Aye.
Councilmember Lockett,
Aye.
Councilmember Whitfield,
No.
Councilmember Alexander, Councilmember Brown Senior,
No,
Councilmember Shainer.
Aye.
Budget adjustment passes 5-3.
Our second budget adjustment comes from the police department. The total budget adjustment is $194,000. This is coming from unused salaries from within the department, and this is going to gas, oil, and lubricants due to increasing fuel costs for the year. I move that we approve this budget adjustment.
Second.
It has been properly moved in second that we approve a budget adjustment coming from the police department in the amount of $194,000. The floor is open for discussion. Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor of this budget adjustment?
Aye.
Any opposed? Budget adjustment approved.
Last budget adjustment is coming from code enforcement. The total budget adjustment is $60,000. It is coming from lot clearance line item, and it's going towards demolition. I move that we approve this budget adjustment.
Second.
It has been properly moved in second that we approve a budget adjustment coming from code enforcement in the amount of $60,000. The floor is open for discussion. Any questions? Hearing none.
Mayor,
I'm sorry. Councilmember Brown Senior.
how do we see an invoice of them?
there's no invoice on, but there's a total, she has a total of demolitions more than what she has in the budget at this point. So she's just moving some money from grass weeds into demolition.
I just want to know, I want to see how the money,
We don't normally add those invoices, we move budget adjustments for that purpose.
that's not transparent when you said we don't usually do what we need to do.
In the neighborhood of 30,000. And to carry her, she has about 129,000 in grass and weed. And she'll leave enough in grass and weed to carry her through the end of the year. And then there'll be enough for her to pay outstanding demolitions and do a few more demolitions throughout the year before budget time.
Can I ask another question in reference to the last budget adjustment? Did we not have an estimate of this before this time? Perhaps in November or December?
In reference to the number of houses that are going to be demolished, sometimes they're able to do more than what they might estimate. And then the other thing is some of the costs have gone up. All companies are charging a bit more because they're paying more money for gas and fuel. So some costs are going up and their prices are not the same as what they were when we went through budget time in December of 2021.
But it is the city council, it is up to the city council to be transparent, and I don't see anything wrong with it. Should have been an attachment on the back of this saying what had already been used and what needs to be used. Yes, that's, I think.
If you have a question in reference to that, Ms. Williams is here,
I'm not all in favor of,
but I have spoken with her. I did question her about this. If I make no mistake, she
I'm
has.
not in favor of talking, because most time when they talk, they come and tell you something that they think you want to hear. And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with a request, I just don't like requests when it should have been estimated at budget time. And that's, I will pertain to that forever. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I'm
And as I
just,
said before,
I'm just saying, can we get a monetary budget of this a monthly until this is taken care of? I mean, I'm just saying, I don't know about, if y'all see the same things I see when you're riding around the city, I want to see some of this,
Councilmember Mays, let's stay on course. If there are no more questions or comments in reference to this budget adjustment, let's vote. All in favor of this budget adjustment, let know by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Budget adjustment approved.
Mayor, that includes ways and means.
Thank you, Councilmember Graham Jr. Next, we'll move into our ordinances and resolutions. Councilmember Holcomb, substituting for Councilmember Mays.
Thank you, Mayor. We have 10 agenda items, number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 will be completed on tonight. Number 7, 8, and 9 will be completed. Agenda item number 10 has been pulled off the sponsor. That concludes ordinance and resolution.
Thank you, Councilmember Holcomb. Economic and Community Development, Councilmember. Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember.
Welfare has not met since our last meeting, but I would like to remind everyone that this Saturday is our free dump day at Heston Stadium. It will be from 7 until 2:30. And also, I'd like everybody to know that COVID is really on the rise, and please do your part in social distancing. Our next meeting will be this Thursday at 11:00 a.m. via Zoom. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Councilmember Sherman. Public Works, Councilmember Whitfield.
Thank you, Mayor. Public Works had a meeting Wednesday, the 21st, 11 a.m. We talked about some issues concerning the citizen in reference to cable increase. That was very concerning to some of the citizens. They had to pay more for cable and getting less channels. So that was an issue. And I'm hoping that we'll be able to visit. I don't know what the council authority is when it comes to that. They're governed by another committee, but even if we have to write a letter to show some concern, that's something we may need to look at. We also discussed this issue here with changing the name of the water company that's on our agenda today. And my concern was that was part of the water increase. I guess we'll find out more about that in the near future. And there was a meeting that was held to discuss that. And that's another one that we may want to look at in the near future if our citizen has to pay a higher water bill. We can't forget the water runoff and the major issues that we had with water all year. We're not going back to the citizen and clear that up. But yet, I would hate for us to then either buy and let the water bill increase without having to come in to the commission that they go before. We did that, street department, Mr. Bennett, and his administration came in, I think, and gentlemen, they presented resolution number 9, I believe it is. And it's a program that's needed in the street department, can be adapted to other departments as well. He has pledged to make sure that if it's passed, and we purchase this equipment, this data program that they need, that is going to make street holes, potholes, the system will have a chance to take a picture of it and send it in, and they would have to respond the same way, so they'll know how quick it takes to do the potholes. I have to say that I agree with all the Megan on a lot of things, but I have to say that on this one, Mr. Bennett and his crew has been doing an excellent job responding to every call that I know of. That I don't know. So I just think I give credit where credit is due. So we're asking, the committee asks for a due pass on that. Park and Rec, as I said, was our biggest concern, the mayor and this council, but there was no one here to speak up on behalf. I want to say this tonight, because we rubber stamp these budget adjustments that we know that has an issue. I will be giving, I said it last time, we did not carry through it. The mayor, my hopes is to bring it to your office tomorrow to ask you to have our auditor to do a total audit of the parks and rec department. I have concerns, and had he been at the committee meeting, I would not have to address it tonight. I got major concerns. I got concerns about our facilities being rented, and I think we need to talk with Ms. Johnson to see how much money has been turned in this year on our rental of our buildings that comes on the Park and Rec. I'm concerned. I'm concerned because when I was at the police department as chief or assistant chief, I couldn't hire my daughter, my brother, the secretary or clerk. But yet, we sat here and let Mr. Glover do that with his close family member because he knows his council approved it. And I'm saying to you, it's wrong. It has to stop somewhere. And they call that nepotism. And if I have to be held to it in there, you have to be held to it, openly, lock it. Everybody should be held to the same standard, then Glover should be as well. And if that's true, in that audit report, I would expect us to tell the citizen how we're spending their money. If that's not true, I will come back to this council on the next meeting, and I will say to them that he didn't hire his brother, that's not nepotism. But there's no justification for it. And I'm hoping that he didn't get a check, but if he did, this council should be made aware of how and why did that happen. We cannot continue to look the other way. I know that I'm on my way out, but I'm obligated to represent the citizens of the Third Ward from now to December 31st. I have no hidden agendas. I will not stand idly by when I know something is wrong. Other people know that it's wrong, and the person doing it knows it's wrong, but he knows that the only person that can control that matter is you, and that he's gonna get back. And what I'm saying tonight, I'm sure you already aware about the drug incident. You're already aware about the rental of the buildings, and nothing is being done, but we don't get notified. My understanding is that we spent $30,000, maybe a little less, to bring somebody in, and someone said it was 8,000, but whatever amount it was, to bring someone in to look at the golf course. If we brought somebody in to look at the golf course, it's gonna be a big investment for the city. Not only should Public Works, but every council member should receive whatever document that he or she provided to the Parks and Rec, so we can know what we're faced with. So when we get to budget time, we won't be surprised. When we get documentation and they hold it, and then come up with a budget adjustment, it's because he feels it could be rubber stamped. So I'm asking, hopefully, that I'll get the support of the council member. I do intend to call the council member to see if they would sign on to an audit of the Park and Rec, especially the Public Works Committee. I don't think we can wait until the next meeting. Hopefully, the auditor will, our internal auditor will do it and sign off on it. And she said it's all well, then I won't have to say it in the next meeting. So that is, before I end my report, I do want to say this, and I said it at the last two committee meetings. I started my committee meeting off this way. I asked this council, as I depart from here, that we still owe the citizens the right to make sure their tax dollars are being spent right. And I asked everybody to look deep in their hearts and their minds and say, are we proud of the way this 5.80 tax is being spent now compared to other 5.80 taxes that have been spent in the past? We can do better with a lot of the money that we're giving the Go Forward initiative, like we just did in this weekend. We give every renewal almost $2 million a year to tear down houses. And we're discussing giving her a $60,000 increase. And now she's got to go out and try to repossess it and seize land from folks. So I'm going to end that report, my report, but I want to say to you, that's my concern, Mayor. And I'm asking, we must clear this up. I would like to clear it up before I leave this council. There's something wrong with Park and Rec. We can't look the other way.
Mayor, since he is on public works, it's been seriously rumored that our water companies are moving around. Is there any kind of truth to that?
My understanding, the mayor may have better understanding, that they're going to build a new facility in Whitehall. I'm not for sure.
Every decline of this, I want to know that. The public is asking that question. I can't answer it. If I get a true answer, I'm going to end up telling the theater. So I'd like to know what's really, I think that we should know that, since that we are probably 3 times as many residents in Pine Bluff than to be in Whitehall from the water. I think it's important that we know whether our water company is going to leave our city and go to the city. It's very important.
I called and asked, they're just building an office out there because Whitehall has been driving to Pine Bluff, but the headquarters, main office is still be here in Pine Bluff.
I certainly hope that's all say true in the next 2-3 years, because they can say, well, they're gonna shut it down over there, and all these residents here are paying, paying the water bill and all of the above taxes that we pay. So,
I think Councilman Alexander is right. In Whitehall, the patrons go to City Hall They don't have it, they bill Lily White Hall for our utilities or for the water company. They pay it at the city hall.
I'm fine with it, I just wanna make
That's all I
sure,
know.
I just wanna make sure the public knows when they ask me questions, I wanna make sure I can refer back to them with answers, proper, good answers, truthful.
And Mayor, before I end my report, I think you will permit me, I don't want to put you Sherry on the spot, and I'll be through. If I can ask her one question. Can you come up to the mic? Then I will. If you can answer, it's fine, and I'm not talking to you, so I hate that I didn't. Street talks, and I just want to know what you think. The street talk is that our parking rate for A and P, X amount of dollars overpaid. Is that true?
That is not correct. They, it's the convention center.
Convention center. Okay, but that don't fall under me, I don't believe, so I don't worry about that. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Mayor, that is my report.
Okay, thank you, thank you.
Can I say something? Mr. Bennett is doing a great job with our street department now. It's our street department administration
Excuse me,
that really didn't do a good job.
excuse
Mr.
me,
Bennett-
that is out of order.
Well, Mr.
And
Bennett,
you've
I
already
didn't,
talked about what a terrible job the street
no,
department
no,
was
I didn't say
doing.
Mr. Bennett, though. Mr. Bennett is doing a great job.
Councilman,
The previous administration of the street department has done a lot of good job for our citizens. Thank you.
we're going to run an orderly meeting,
Yes.
and I need you to comply.
That is my report, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Our next report will come from Development and Planning, Councilmember Lyon.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The Development and Planning Committee has not met since our last meeting. We shall meet tomorrow at 1 o'clock in the council chambers and by Zoom. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Councilmember Lyon. That was 1 o'clock in the chamber
Yes, ma'am.
and by Zoom.
Yes, ma'am.
Traffic and Aviation, Councilmember Alexander.
Thank you, Mayor. Traffic and Aviation was scheduled to meet tomorrow at 10 o'clock a.m. via Zoom, but I may have a scheduling conflict, so I need to know if my committee members are available. And I don't have my calendar with other committee meetings up right now, but either Thursday at 10 or Friday at 10. Is there a conflict during that time? Public health and welfare at 11 on Thursday? On Thursday. Thank you. What about Friday at 10? Friday is clear. Friday is clear. Okay. All right.
By Zoom?
Are you good? Okay, so I rescheduled it to Friday at 10 o'clock via Zoom. I apologize for any inconvenience, and this concludes my report. Thank you.
You will give us that normal reminder.
Yeah, 1 minute before.
Thank you, Councilmember Alexander. Administration Committee report coming from Councilmember Holcomb Jr.
Thank you, Mayor. The administration committee will meet next Tuesday, August the 9th, at 11 a.m. via Zoom.
So this will not be a hybrid meeting, just Zoom only.
Yes, ma'am. And that concludes my report.
Is that the night, will that be the night?
The ninth.
Yes, next Tuesday, August the 9th, at 11 a.m.
Today the first, right?
Correct. Next Tuesday, 9th.
Okay, I'm trying to work these days.
Next Monday will be the 8th.
Okay,
and
I'm
then
trying to
Tuesday
work
will be
these
the 9th. Public Safety, thank you, Councilmember Holcomb. Public Safety, Councilmember Brown Jr.
Thank you, Mayor. Public safety has not met since our last council meeting, but we will have a meeting on this Wednesday upcoming. That will be the 3rd at 1:30 p.m. It will be in the council chambers. And I'm quite sure the clerk will set up a Zoom link for those that want to attend virtually. And that concludes my report.
Very good, thank you so much. At this time, we're going to pause before we move into proposed ordinances and resolutions and have our announcements, and I have a special presentation that we'd like to make. Our first announcement is Abundant Light Church will have its back to school rally on August 6th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And it will be at the Pine Bluff Community Garden at the 11th between Cherry and Linden at 11th and 12th. That's Pine Bluff Community Garden. Abundant Light Back to School Rally. Our Veterans Legal Clinic that we have every month will be held August 11th from 9 a.m. to 12 noon. This will be at the Sergeant Elder Lee Roberts Veterans Center at 114 South State Street. Our grant award announcement. The City of Pine Bluff has been awarded a $300,000 grant by the U.S. Department of Agriculture. The purpose is to increase community garden capacity and youth education on food production and healthy eating. It is a 3-year program with $100,000, I believe, per year, over a 3-year period. Let's give a round of applause to our grant writer for securing this $300,000 over a 3-year period. At this time, I want to recognize 4 of our children in this community who are part of Gloves, Not Guns. I would like for those 4 children to please stand if they're here and come to the front. Thank you, Mr. Brewer. These young people competed in the 2022 National Junior Olympic Boxing Championship last month. And Mr. Brewer, exactly, where did you all go?
Wichita, Kansas.
Okay, I thought it was Kansas, I just didn't remember what city. Wichita, Kansas. There were 1,075 boxers from around the country who participated, and the 4 from Pine Bluff were named the Arkansas Kids. Let's give them a big round. We have an award for them. I'm going to ask them to come and stand in this area as I call your name. It's in the audience. Chandler Wright, 11 years old. Eleven-year-old Chandler. Darion Evans, 9 years old. Darion White, 11 years old. Trayvon Evans, 9 years old. Jalen Riley, 9 years old. We want to give each one of them a certificate of achievement. The certificate is proudly presented to Chandler Wright. Where's my Chandler? Chandler Wright. For competing at the 2022 National Junior Olympics Boxing Championship in the 65-pound bantam weight class in Wichita, Kansas, June 9th through the 16th, 2022. Congratulations. Darion White. Darion White, he performed, or he participated in the 60-pound. Chandler Wright was the 65-pound competition. This one is the 60-pound Darion. We're competing at the 2022 National Olympics Boxing Championship in Wichita, Kansas. Trayvon Evans participated or competed in the 2022 National Junior Olympics Boxing Championship in the 9 to 10-year-old 85-pound. It's 85 pounds. It says 85-pound Pee-wee weight class in Wichita, Kansas. He's solid. He's a corn-fed kid. Okay. And Dalen Wiley, for competing at the 2022 National Junior Olympics Boxing Championship in the 9 to 10-year-old 80 pounds. So they were competing against those kids who are up to 80 pounds.
Yes, ma'am.
Where they may not be at that weight.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, very good. That's outstanding. And these are your certificates. We congratulate you. And thanks to Miss Louise in my office, she's giving everybody a goodie bag to go along with that certificate. We want to get pictures of council members, you all want to get around them, or you do it?
Thank you.
Yeah. Second time. Oh, look, hey, guys,
Put your mask
let's take your mask off for the picture. We won't talk. Take them all the way off. I don't want you to look like you've got a blue beard. Take it all the way off. Just put it in. Then let's give a big smile and no fingers in the air, none of that stuff, just a big smile. I'll tell you, 1, 2, 3. Got it. That's why we get to Miss Louise and get those, where did they go? Okay, there's Miss Louise, she'll give you those feedback. Let's give our champion. Well, I also understand, Mr. Blue, that you have a special announcement that you need to make in reference to something that happened this week. So did I put you on the spot?
Yes,
Miss Louise or someone told me that you had somebody to go to another competition. And that they won some phenomenal award just since this happened. Is that?
well, I know,
Oh, okay, she said that's not what she told me.
but first of all, just real quickly, Mayor, I just want to thank, the mayor, and I just want to thank the council, for recognizing these young men. I want y'all to understand, the 2022 National Junior Olympics has been held in recent years in Richmond, Virginia, and this has always been out of reach. And when I found out that it was going to be held in Kansas, which of course is only 500 miles away. In recent years in Kansas and Virginia was just too much out of our for expense wise. And so these young men, first of all, I just want to thank the parents in preparing for this competition here, because right now it's just right next door to us. And the parents, they allowed me a week before competition to my resident, we called it the clubhouse. For a week prior to, they allowed them to come in, and I put them in training. Prior to, we were running training 5 miles a day. These little kids you saw in front of y'all was running 5 miles a day, twice a day. We wanted to be prepared for this competition. And I just wanted to thank the parents. And then the remaining team, make sure y'all stand up. The remaining team, stand up. I want the parents to stand up because I just want to thank the parents just for allowing me to work with their kids. And so, it's not an easy task. But also there's, for Bluff not doing success, I hate to single her out, but due to their funding, it has been, it is what made Bluff not going with her. And I just want to recognize Ms. Sherry Story, the director of AMP, she's there big But also, I want to recognize Keyshawn, he's one of our members. Now, Keyshawn, the same week that we was in Kansas competing in boxing, he won the World Series in baseball in Liberty, He was in Liberty, Missouri. While we were slugging on one state, he was on another state slugging that bat right there. And I just want to thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Blue. And Mr. Brewer, we thank you for your dedication and commitment, the many long hours that you spend preparing our kids for these events. Thank you so very much. And I think I got the right announcement now. 4 Pine Bluff boys played on a team that won our world championship in baseball. And this was USA 13 AA World Series, which took place in Liberty, Kansas, Liberty City, Missouri, I'm sorry, Liberty City, Missouri. They won 7, they lost 0, and they tied 1. And the coach is Marquise Bowers. Let's give that team a big round. USA World Series. Good job. Next, we'll move into our proposed ordinances and resolutions. Councilmember Hope.
Agenda item number 1, an ordinance of the 2021 International Mechanical Code, amending section 7-226 of the Code of Ordinance of the City of Pine Bluff, Arkansas, for related purposes and declaring an emergency of the first reading.
Whereas to promote the public safety, it behooves the city to adopt the most recent edition of the International Mechanical Code. Now therefore be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Pine Bluff, Arkansas, Section 1, adoption of the code. The City Council does hereby adopt by reference the 2021 edition of the International Mechanical Code, consisting of a single bound volume and whole thereof, save and except such portions as are hereinafter deleted, modified, or amended. B. Section 7-226 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Pine Bluff, Arkansas is amended to delete the phrase Arkansas Mechanical Code, being particularly the 2010 edition thereof, and substitute International Mechanical Code, being particularly the 2021 edition thereof. Section 2, maintenance of copies for public view and inspection. Not less than 3 copies of the code have been and are now filed with the Office of the City Clerk of the City of Pine Bluff, Arkansas, and are available for public inspection during their regular hours. Section 3, application from the date on which this ordinance shall take effect. The provisions thereof shall be controlled within the limits of the City of Pine Bluff. Section 4, repeal of conflicting provisions. All ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict with this ordinance are hereby repealed. Section 5, overlapping coverage. If a provision of the code adopted by this ordinance overlaps a provision of another code adopted by the City of Pine Bluff, then the provision which provides greater protection to the public shall govern. Section 6, severability. If any section, subsection, sentence, clause, or phrase of this ordinance is for any reason held to be unconstitutional or unlawful, such decision shall not affect the validity of the remaining portions of this ordinance. Section 7, emergency clause. Whereas it is of the utmost urgency that the City of Pine Bluff, Arkansas have an updated mechanical code to protect the property and lives of the citizens of our city. Therefore, an emergency is hereby declared to exist, and this ordinance being necessary for the immediate protection of the public peace, health, and safety shall take effect immediately on its passage and approval.
Suspend the rules, place it on the second reading. Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded that we suspend the rules, place this ordinance on its second reading. Roll call, please.
Councilmember May. Councilmember Holcomb Jr.
Aye.
Councilmember Brown Jr.
Aye.
Councilmember Lockett.
Aye.
Councilmember Whitfield.
Aye.
Councilmember Alexander. Councilmember Brown Senior.
Aye.
And Councilmember Senior.
An ordinance adopting the 2021 International Mechanical Code, amending section 7-226 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Pine Bluff, Arkansas, for related purposes and declaring an emergency.
Suspend the rules, place the ordinance up for the third and final reading. Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded that we suspend the rules and place this ordinance on its third and final reading. Roll call, please.
Councilmember May. Councilmember Holcomb Jr.
Aye.
Councilmember Brown Jr. Councilmember Lockett.
Aye.
Councilmember Whitfield.
Aye.
Councilmember Alexander. Councilmember Brown Senior.
Aye.
And Councilmember Shannon.
An ordinance adopting the 2021 International Mechanical Code, amending section 7-226 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Pine Bluff, Arkansas, for related purposes and declaring an emergency.
Move for adoption. Second.
It's been properly moved and second that an ordinance adopting the 2021 International Mechanical Code, amending section 7-226 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Pine Bluff, Arkansas, for purposes and declaring an emergency. The floor is open for discussion. Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor of this ordinance, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ordinance approved.
I move to accept the emergency clause. Second.
Councilmember Mays. Councilmember Holcomb Junior.
Aye.
Councilmember Brown Junior.
Aye.
Councilmember Lockett.
Aye.
Councilmember Whitfield. Councilmember Alexander. Councilmember Brown Senior. And Councilmember Shainer.
Emergency clause is stated.
Agenda item number 2. An ordinance adopting the 2018 Arkansas Fuel Gas Code, amending section 7-24 of the Code of Ordinance of the City of Pine Bluff, Arkansas, for related purposes and declaring an emergency for the first reading.
Whereas to promote the public safety, it behooves the city to adopt the most recent edition of the Arkansas Fuel Gas Code. Now therefore be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Pine Bluff, Arkansas, Section 1, adoption of the code. The City Council does hereby adopt by reference the 2018 edition of the Arkansas Fuel Gas Code, consisting of a single loose leaf, volume, and whole thereof, save and except such portions as are hereinafter deleted, modified, or amended. B, Section 7-241 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Pine Bluff is amended to add a subsection C to read as follows. The 2018 edition of the Arkansas Fuel Gas Code is adopted and will govern in the city unless or until superseded by future adoption of a new code by the state of Arkansas or otherwise amended by the City Council. Section 2, maintenance of copies for public view and inspection. Not less than 3 copies of the code have been and are now filed with the Office of the City Clerk of the City of Arkansas and are available for public inspection during regular hours. Section 3, application. From the date on which this ordinance shall take effect, the provisions thereof shall be controlling within the corporate limits of the City of Pine Bluff, Arkansas. Section 4, repeal of conflicting provisions. All ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict with this ordinance are hereby repealed. Section 5, overlapping coverage. If a provision of the code adopted by this ordinance overlaps a provision of another code adopted by the City of Pine Bluff, then the provision which provides greater protection to the public shall govern. Section 6, severability. If any section, subsection, sentence, clause, or phrase of this ordinance is for any reason held to be unconstitutional or unlawful, such decision shall not affect the validity of the remaining portions of this ordinance. Section 7, emergency clause. Whereas it is of the utmost urgency that the City of Pine Bluff, Arkansas have an up-to-date fuel gas code to protect the property and lives of the citizens of our city. Therefore, an emergency is hereby declared to exist, and this ordinance being necessary for the immediate protection of the public peace, health, and safety shall take effect immediately upon its passage and approval.
Suspend the rules, place this ordinance on the second reading. Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded that we suspend the rules and place this ordinance on the second reading. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Mays. Councilmember Holcomb Junior.
Aye.
Councilmember Brown Junior.
Aye.
Councilmember Lockett.
Aye.
Councilmember Whitfield.
Aye.
Councilmember Alexander. Councilmember Brown Senior.
Aye.
Councilmember Shainer.
An ordinance adopted the 2018 Arkansas Fuel Gas Code, amending section 7-241 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Pine Bluff, Arkansas, for related purposes and declaring an emergency.
Suspend the rules, place the ordinance on the third and final reading. Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded that we suspend rules and place this ordinance on its third and final reading. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Mays. Councilmember Holcomb Junior.
Aye.
Councilmember Brown Junior. Councilmember Lockett.
Aye.
Councilmember Whitfield.
Aye.
Councilmember Alexander. Councilmember Brown Senior.
Aye.
Councilmember Shainer.
An ordinance adopting the 2018 Arkansas Fuel Gas Code, amending section 7-241 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Pine Bluff, Arkansas, for related purposes and declaring an emergency.
Move for adoption. Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded that an ordinance adopting the 2018 Arkansas Fuel Gas Code, amending section 7-241 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Pine Bluff, Arkansas, for related purposes and declaring an emergency be approved. The floor is open for discussion. Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor of this ordinance, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I move we accept the emergency clause. Second.
Roll
Okay, roll call the, I'm sorry.
call, please.
Councilmember Mays.
Aye.
Councilmember Holcomb Junior.
Aye.
Councilmember Brown Junior.
Aye.
Councilmember Lockett.
Aye.
Councilmember Whitfield.
Aye.
Councilmember Alexander. Councilmember Brown Senior.
Aye.
Councilmember Shainer.
Emergency clause enacted.
Agenda item number 30, an ordinance adopting the 2018 Arkansas Plumbing Code, amending section 7-241A of the Code of Ordinance of the City of Pine Bluff, Arkansas, for related purposes and declaring an emergency up for the first reading.
Whereas to promote the public safety, it behooves the city to adopt the most recent edition of the Arkansas Plumbing Code. Now therefore be ordained by the City Council of the City of Pine Bluff, Arkansas, Section 1, adoption of the code. The City Council does hereby adopt by reference the 2018 edition of the Arkansas Plumbing Code, consisting of a single loose leaf volume and the whole thereof, save and except such portions as are hereinafter deleted, modified, or amended. B, section 7-241, subsection A of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Pine Bluff, Arkansas is amended as follows. Insert 2018 edition of in front of the Arkansas State Plumbing Code. Section 2, maintenance and copies for public view and inspection. Not less than 3 copies of the code have been and are now filed in the office of the city clerk of the City of Pine Bluff, Arkansas, and are available for public inspection during regular hours. Section 3, application. From the date on which this ordinance shall take effect, the provisions thereof shall be controlling within the corporate city limits of Pine Bluff, Arkansas. Section 4, repeal of conflicting provisions. All ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict with this ordinance are hereby repealed. Section 5, overlapping coverage. If a provision of a code adopted by this ordinance overlaps a provision of another code adopted by the City of Pine Bluff, then the provision which provides greater protection to the public shall govern. Section 6, severability. If any section, subsection, sentence, clause, or phrase of this ordinance is for any reason held to be unconstitutional or unlawful, such decision shall not affect the validity of the remaining portions of this ordinance. Section 7, emergency clause. Whereas it is of the utmost urgency that the City of Pine Bluff, Arkansas have an update plumbing code to protect the property and lives of the citizens of our city. Therefore, an emergency is hereby declared to exist, and this ordinance being necessary for the immediate protection of the public peace, health, and safety shall take effect immediately upon its passage and approval.
Suspend the rules and place this ordinance up for the second reading. Second.
It has been properly moved in second that we suspend the rules and place this ordinance on its second reading. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Mays.
Aye.
Councilmember Holcomb Junior.
Aye.
Councilmember Brown Junior.
Aye.
Councilmember Lockett.
Aye.
Councilmember Whitfield.
Aye.
Councilmember Alexander. Councilmember Brown Senior. Councilmember Shainer.
An ordinance adopted the 2018 Arkansas Plumbing Code, amending section 7-241A of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Pine Bluff, Arkansas, for related purposes and declaring an emergency.
Suspend the rules and place this ordinance up for its third and final reading. Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Mays.
Aye.
Councilmember Holcomb Junior.
Aye.
Councilmember Brown Junior.
Aye.
Councilmember Lockett.
Aye.
Councilmember Whitfield.
Aye.
Councilmember Alexander. Councilmember Brown Senior.
Aye.
Councilmember Shainer.
An ordinance adopted the 2018 Arkansas Plumbing Code, amending section 7-241A of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Pine Bluff, Arkansas, for related purposes and declaring an emergency.
Move for adoption.
Second.
It's been properly moved in second that an ordinance adopting the 2018 Arkansas Plumbing Code, amending section 7-24A of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Pine Bluff, Arkansas, for related purposes and declaring an emergency. The floor is open for questions, discussion. Hearing none. All in favor of this ordinance, let it be known by saying aye. Any opposed? Ordinance approved.
Move we accept the emergency clause.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Holcomb, Councilmember Mays. Councilmember Holcomb.
Aye.
Councilmember Brown Jr.
Aye.
Councilmember Lockett.
Aye.
Councilmember Whitfield.
Aye.
Councilmember Alexander. Councilmember Brown Senior.
Aye.
Councilmember Shainer.
Agenda item number 4, an order adopting the 2014 Arkansas Energy Code with building construction supplements and amendments, amending section 7-1.1 of the Code of Ordinance of the City of Pine Bluff, Arkansas, for related purposes and declaring an emergency up for first reading.
Whereas to promote the public safety and behoove the city to adopt the most recent edition of the Arkansas Energy Code as supplemented and amended by the 2014 Building Construction Supplements and Amendments. Now therefore be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Pine Bluff, Arkansas, Section 1, the city does hereby adopt by reference the 2014 edition of the Arkansas Energy Code with its 2014 Building Construction Supplements and Amendments, and the whole thereof, save and except such portions as are hereinafter deleted, modified, or amended. Section Section 7-1.1 Code of Ordinances of the City of Pine Bluff, Arkansas is amended as follows: replace Arkansas Energy Code for new building construction supplements and amendments with 2011 edition with the Arkansas Energy Code for building construction with building construction supplements and amendments 2014 edition. Section 2, maintenance of copies for both review and inspection. Not less than 3 copies of the code have been and are filed in the office of the city clerk of the City of Pine Bluff, Arkansas, and are available for public inspection during regular hours. Section 3, application. From the date on which this ordinance shall take effect, the provisions thereof shall be controlled within the corporate limits of the City of Pine Bluff, Arkansas. Section 4, repeal of conflicting provisions. All ordinances, all parts of ordinances in conflict with this ordinance are hereby repealed. Section 5, overlapping coverage. If a provision of the code adopted by this ordinance overlaps a provision of another code adopted by the City of Pine Bluff, then the provision which provides greater protection to the public shall be covered. Section 6, severability. If any section, subsection, sentence, clause, or phrase of this ordinance is for any reason held to be unconstitutional or unlawful, such decision shall not affect the validity of the remaining portions of this ordinance. Section 7, emergency clause. Whereas it is of the utmost urgency that the City of Pine Bluff, Arkansas have an up-to-date Arkansas Energy Code to protect the property and lives of the citizens of our city. Therefore, an emergency is declared to exist, and this ordinance being necessary for the immediate protection of the public peace, health, and safety shall take effect immediately on its passage.
Suspend the rules, place the ordinance up for the second reading.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded that we suspend the rules and place this ordinance on the second reading. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Mays.
Aye.
Councilmember Holcomb Jr.
Aye.
Councilmember Brown Jr. Councilmember Lockett.
Aye.
Councilmember Whitfield.
Aye.
Councilmember Alexander. Councilmember Brown Senior.
Aye.
Councilmember Shainer.
An ordinance adopting the 2014 Arkansas Energy Code with building construction supplements and amendments, amending section 7-1.1 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Pine Bluff, Arkansas for related purposes and declaring an emergency.
Suspend the rules and place the ordinance up for its third and final reading.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded that we suspend the rules and place this ordinance on its third and final reading. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Mays. Councilmember Holcomb Jr.
Aye.
Councilmember Brown Jr. Councilmember Lockett.
Aye.
Councilmember Whitfield.
Aye.
Councilmember Alexander. Councilmember Brown Senior.
Aye.
Councilmember Shainer.
An ordinance adopting the 2014 Arkansas Energy Code with building construction supplements and amendments, amending section 7-1.1 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Pine Bluff, Arkansas for related purposes and declaring an emergency.
Move for adoption.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded that an ordinance adopting the 2014 Arkansas Energy Code and Building Construction Supplements and Amendments, amending section 7-1.1 of code ordinances of the city of Pine Bluff, Arkansas, for related purposes and declaring an emergency be approved. Open for discussion. Any questions? Hearing none. All in favor of this ordinance, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ordinance approved.
Move we accept the emergency clause.
Second. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Mays. Councilmember Holcomb Junior.
Aye.
Councilmember Brown Junior.
Aye.
Councilmember Lockett.
Aye.
Councilmember Whitfield.
Aye.
Councilmember Alexander. Councilmember Brown Senior.
Aye.
Councilmember Shainer.
Agenda item number 5. An ordinance amending section 13.152 in division 3 of article 4 of chapter 13 of the code of ordinance of the city of Pine Bluff, Arkansas, to update the name of the water company and related purposes. Up for first reading.
Whereas the city code should be updated to reflect that the local water company is now owned and operated by Liberty Utilities. Now therefore be ordained by the city council of the city of Pine Bluff, Arkansas, section 1, that section 13-152 in division 3 of article 4, chapter 13 of the code of ordinances of the city of Pine Bluff, Arkansas is amended to read as follows. Liberty Utilities, successor to United Water Works of Arkansas, which was the successor to General Water Works Corporation, its successors and assigns, which has been given the exclusive right and franchise to operate a water works system in the city, shall pay to the city each month a sum equal to 4 1/4% of all total gross revenues derived from all customers in the city limits for the month, to be remitted to the city by the 15th day of next month of each month. Section 2, all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith are repealed to the extent of the conflict. Section 3, this ordinance being of a general and permanent nature, the clerk will ensure that it is published as required by law. Section 4, this ordinance takes effect on the 31st day after its adoption.
Suspend the rules, place the ordinance up for a second reading.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded that we suspend the rules and place this ordinance on the second reading. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Mays. Councilmember Holcomb Junior.
Aye.
Councilmember Brown Junior.
Aye.
Councilmember Lockett.
Aye.
Councilmember Whitfield.
Aye.
Councilmember Alexander. Councilmember Brown Senior.
Aye.
Councilmember Shainer.
An ordinance amending section 13-152 in division 3 of article 4 of chapter 13 of the code of ordinances of the city of Pine Bluff, Arkansas, to update the name of the water company and related purposes.
Suspend the rules, place the ordinance up for its third and final reading.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded that we suspend the rules and place this ordinance on its third and final reading. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Mays. Councilmember Holcomb Junior.
Aye.
Councilmember Brown Junior.
Aye.
Councilmember Lockett.
Aye.
Councilmember Whitfield.
Aye.
Councilmember Alexander. Councilmember Brown Senior. Councilmember Shainer.
An ordinance amending section 13-152 in division 3 of article 4 of chapter 13 of the code of ordinances of the city of Pine Bluff, Arkansas, to update the name of the water company and related purposes.
Move for adoption.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded that an ordinance amending section 13-152 in division 3 of the article of chapter 13 of code of ordinances of the city of Pine Bluff to update the name of the water company and for related purposes be approved. The floor is open for discussion. Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor? Yes, Councilmember Brown Senior.
Before they had 4 1/4%, is that a figure of Pine Bluff or a figure of the utility? And is that a statewide percent?
How was that? I'll ask one of the attorneys to answer that question.
Yeah.
Okay.
Speak up.
I said, I think the 4.25% was fixed when the water company was transferred from public to private ownership. Honestly, under Arkansas law, you can charge, the city can assess up to 4.5% franchise fee. But to change it now, you have to have the agreement of the water company. So, and also remember that the entire amount is passed on to the consumer on their bill. So if it goes up, the water bill goes up. But it's just, it was a set, I think the last ordinance that we passed in this was like 2007 or something. So it's just been that way for many years.
We had a price change in our water since then, though.
Well, now, they had a better lobby than I guess we did, because now their rates are set by the Public Service Commission. They took it away from the municipality being able to have any.
So we can't do anything about it.
When you complain to the Public Service Commission.
Let me say this, so whereas Pine Bluff is gonna get 4.25%, will White House be getting the same amount?
I don't know, it depends on, when they sold their water company to Liberty. If at the time it was 4.5%, or they insisted on it being assessed at 4.5%, it's possible they're getting 4.5%.
I don't feel right to a city that's larger than White House.
It just depended upon the time that it was fixed. And state statute now, we're stuck with that unless we get an agreement with the water company along.
Well, I got a question. This for you and the mayor, is it possible that we could negotiate the 4.5%?
Sure.
So can we, Mayor?
But I guess we also need to look at it, and if we do that, like the attorney said, it's gonna increase the citizens' rate.
But you also should have heard me when I said he said 2007, which is over 10 years and more, that we've had an increase on our water bill since.
No, but that's just straight to the water company, that doesn't affect the city's amount. It's just that if we raise our part, then their bill's gonna go up, because we're.
You're not really understanding what you're saying yourself. I'm simply saying that we've had a water increase at still 4.4%. So the water company's getting their increase, and the city's not getting the increase that is due from the water company. That's what I'm looking at. He did say 2007.
Remember that if their rate goes up, 4.25% is also increased, because it's 4.25% greater amount. So we'll get more money at 4.25 because they get more money. If it goes up to 4.5, then it will be a real increase in the water bill.
But remember what I just said, 2007, we've had a lot of increases on our water bill. I mean, okay, but if the mayor don't want to negotiate, the restaurant, hey, I would just bring it to the public and to the body, city council body that it's possible that other cities and your warehouse. I put that up, whatever, I know. Thank you.
In reference to rate increases, I will say, I think it was late 2019 or early 2020. I want to say it was late 2019. Liberty did propose a rate increase for Pine Bluff, and they had presented that rate increase before the Public Service Commission, and it was a 30% increase. We complained, we called in, we had several meetings with them, and they pulled that rate increase. But they are getting ready to move forward with another rate increase.
That's where I'm talking about.
As well. We don't know how whether we'll be successful, but the last time they pulled it. So,
They're gonna bring it back and it's
coming back.
So I was just saying, I like to go up, at 4.5. Because they're gonna get their raise. It's just more money for the city, but I guess if we wanna set item, we can set item, but I just think it's the right thing to do, is to try to negotiate to that 4.5%. Because they're gonna get their increase, they're gonna put it on the city. I heard what
It's going to do a city good to negotiate this particular 4.5%.
I heard what Joe said, that if they collect more, if they charge more, then our 4.25% will be higher, but at the same time, it will be even more higher if we were getting 4.5. That's for me.
Are there any other questions or comments? Hearing none. All in favor of this? Did we get to?
No, it's time to vote.
Okay. All in favor of this ordinance, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ordinance approved.
Agenda item number 6. An ordinance amending chapter 2, article 5 to add new section 2168 concerning conflicts of interest and disqualification of vendors as regards its pre-procurement process and for related purposes up for the first reading.
Whereas the city's procurement regulations do not address conflicts of interest concerning prospective vendors or for the disqualification of vendors, and whereas it is recommended by the city's forensic auditors that such a policy be adopted. Now therefore be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Bluff, Arkansas, Section 1, that Article 5 of Chapter 2 of the Ordinances of the City of Bluff, Arkansas is amended to add a new section 2-168 to read as follows. A vendor is disqualified from the city's procurement process and ineligible from being awarded a contract with the city if, number one, the vendor has within the previous 36 months been disbarred, suspended, or excluded from participation in the procurement process by a political subdivision of the state of Arkansas or an agency or department of the United States government. Or number two, a conflict of interest exists between vendor and any of the vendor's owners, directors, officers, employees, and the city. Or number three, the vendor submits a bid containing a false representation of a material fact. Or number four, the vendor or any of its principals is convicted of bribery of a public official. Or number five, the vendor's past performance of a contract with the city was substandard or deficient or in material breach of the contract. Or number six, the vendor or its chief officers has been convicted of a felony relating to the procurement process involving another government entity. B, definitions. Vendor means any business or commercial entity or business of any type or nature. Disqualification is the act of the city in prohibiting a vendor from participating in one or more procurements. Disqualification may take the form of disbarment, suspension, or exclusion. Procurement is the purchase or acquisition of goods, materials, and services covered by Article 5 in Chapter 2 of this code. Section 4, number 4, city is the City of Bluff, Arkansas, and its departments and subdivision. Conflict of interest includes transactions covered by the provisions of ACA Section 442-107, as well as any conflict of interest defined in the Arkansas Code and under law. C, a vendor disqualified under Section 8.1 will remain disqualified until reinstated by the government entity which imposed the action. D, a vendor disqualified under subsection 8.2 remains disqualified until the conflict of interest is resolved. E, a vendor disqualified under sections 4 and 6 remains disqualified until the offending officers are separated from the employment or involvement of the vendor plus a period of 6 months. F, a vendor disqualified under subsection 3 is disqualified from participation in the procurement process for a period of 12 months. G, a vendor is disqualified under section 8.5, is disqualified from participation in the procurement process for a period of 12 months. Section 2, an ordinance or any part thereof in conflict with this ordinance is repealed to the extent of the conflict. Section 3, the sections, paragraphs, sentences of this ordinance are declared to be severable, and should any one be found unlawful, the rest will continue to be given full force and effect. Section 4, this ordinance being of a general or permanent nature, the clerk will ensure its publication in compliance with Arkansas law. Section 5, this ordinance will take effect on the 31st day after its adoption or publication, whichever is later.
Suspend the rules, place the ordinance on the second reading.
Second. It's been properly moved that we suspend the rules and place this ordinance on its second reading. Roll call, please.
Councilmember May.
Aye.
Councilmember Holcomb Jr.
Aye.
Councilmember Brown Jr.
Aye.
Councilmember Lockett.
Aye.
Councilmember Whitfield.
Aye.
Councilmember Alexander. Councilmember Brown Senior.
Aye.
Councilmember Shainer.
Aye.
An ordinance amending chapter 2, article 5 to add new subsection 2-168 concerning conflicts of interest and disqualification of vendors as regarding the procurement process and for related purposes.
Suspend the rules and place the ordinance up on its third and final reading. Second.
It has been properly moved and seconded that we suspend the rules and place this ordinance on its third and final reading. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Mays.
Aye.
Councilmember Holcomb Junior.
Aye.
Councilmember Brown Junior.
Aye.
Councilmember Moffitt.
Aye.
Councilmember Whitfield.
Aye.
Councilmember Alexander. Councilmember Brown Senior.
Aye.
Councilmember Shainer.
An ordinance amending chapter 2, article 5 to add new section 2-168 concerning conflicts of interest and disqualification of vendors as it regards the procurement process and for related purposes.
Move for adoption.
Second.
It has been properly moved and seconded an ordinance amending chapter 2, article 5 to add new section 2-168 concerning conflicts of interest and disqualification of vendors as regards the procurement process and for related purposes be approved. The floor is open for discussion. Councilmember Whitfield.
On the first page, it said where it is recommended by the city forensic auditor. Is that Gina?
What section was that?
Line 13.
Was recommended by the auditors? No, this was recommended, is that?
The outside auditor.
The outside auditors, this was that recommended by the legislative auditors, who just finished their audit here recently. Any other questions? Hearing none, all in favor of this ordinance, let me know by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ordinance approved.
Agenda item number 7, an ordinance amending division 2 of article 2 of chapter 13 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Pine Bluff, Arkansas, respecting the gross receipts tax on hotels and restaurants to address short-term rentals, food trucks, and for related purposes, up for the first reading.
Whereas the popularity of websites such as Airbnb and the like facilitate the rental of spare rooms for lodging within the residences or ancillary structures on a short-term basis of less than 30 days. And whereas there has been a proliferation of food trucks providing prepared food for consumption on or off their premises in the city. And whereas the city's provision regarding the gross receipt tax on hotels and restaurants such be amended to address this new lodging and food option and other changes in state law concerning application of the tax. And whereas Arkansas Code Section 2675-601 authorizes a city which levies a tax pursuant to the code to assess and collect the tax for short-term rentals on food trucks and on food trucks. Now therefore be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Pine Bluff, Arkansas, Section 1, to Section 13-46, in Division 2 of Article 2 of Chapter 13 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Pine Bluff, Arkansas, is amended to revise the definitions of gross receipt tax, hotel accommodations, restaurants, cafes, cafeterias, and other business establishments and similar businesses to read as follows. Gross receipts tax shall mean a tax of 3% upon the gross receipts or gross proceeds from the renting, leasing, or otherwise furnishing of a hotel, motel, bed and breakfast, room, home, or other residential accommodation for sleeping, as well as other meeting or party event facilities, and 2% upon the gross receipts of restaurants, cafes, cafeterias, and other business establishments in the city. Hotel or motel accommodation and short-term rentals shall mean the renting, leasing, or otherwise furnishing of accommodation in a hotel, motel, condominium, bed and breakfast, rooms, home, or other residential structure, and meeting or party room facilities upon a day-to-day or week-to-week basis. This shall not include renting, leasing, or furnishing of accommodations upon a month-to-month tenancies or tenancies of a longer duration than 30 days. The location must comply with the applicable zoning, property maintenance, and fire codes. restaurants, cafes, cafeterias, mobile food trucks, or mobile food facility and other business establishments shall mean any establishment engaged in the business of selling refreshments or meals for consumption on the premises and shall include the gross receipt upon all such sales of prepared food of any type of beverage sold on the premises. Similar businesses shall mean any establishment, especially including mobile food trucks or mobile food facilities engaged in the business of selling prepared foods or beverages for consumption on or off the premises. Section 2, that section 13-47D1 is amended to be as follows. A tax in the sum of 3% shall be levied in the city. A, the gross receipts or gross proceeds from the renting, leasing, or otherwise furnishing hotel, motel, bed and breakfast, room, home, or other residential accommodations for sleeping, meeting, or party room facilities for profit, but such accommodations shall not include the rental or lease of such accommodations for periods of 30 days or more. And B, a tax in the sum of 2% shall be levied upon the city upon the portion of the gross receipts and gross proceeds received by restaurants, cafes, cafeterias, delis, drive-in restaurants, carry-out restaurants, concession stands, convenience stores, grocery store, restaurants, mobile food trucks, and mobile food facilities, and similar businesses from the sale of prepared food and beverages for on or off premises consumption, but such tax shall not apply to such gross receipts or gross proceeds of the organizations qualified under 501c3 of the Federal Internal Revenue Code. Section 3, any ordinance or part of an ordinance in conflict herewith is repealed to the extent of the conflict. Section 4, the provisions of this ordinance are declared to be severable, and if any portion hereof be declared unlawful and unenforceable, the remaining provisions will continue to be given full force and effect. Section 5, this ordinance being of a general and permanent nature, the clerk will ensure its publication as required by law. Section 6, this ordinance takes effect on the 31st day after its adoption.
Place this ordinance on the calendar.
Councilman Hope.
Yes, sir.
We have the Sherry story here tonight, and so to keep her from having to come back, this is time to read it. If anybody had any questions about this ordinance, she'd be more than happy to come up and try to explain it or answer any questions that you may have.
Yes. 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 I just want to see you want to tell us.
Good evening. Basically, this amended ordinance just brings us up to date to follow Arkansas code. Arkansas law has already outlined those specific, the food trucks and the short-term rentals, such as the rooms, houses, bed and breakfasts that are listed on sites such as Airbnb or Vrbo. We actually already received a check from one of those companies, not one of the ones that I listed, but another company for short-term rentals in Pine Bluff. They're becoming more and more popular. So we just want to be up to date with our city ordinance to follow what the state is doing and what other cities are doing.
But I noticed on here, we have food trucks. Have we been collecting money for food trucks in the past?
We have, because they fall under the prepared food. This just specifies that food trucks are included, which they should have always been included. Of course, they've increased in popularity in the past several years, but they serve prepared food, so
I don't
that's,
understand it, but have you been collecting it?
yes, we
How
have,
have you been collecting it?
because it falls under prepared
I
food.
didn't ask that. I said, how have you been collecting it?
By sending them information on how they send in their A&P taxes. Basically, we find out, a lot of times they'll come into our office saying they're a new food truck in town. What do we do? Because they're familiar with the A&P tax, what they call the hamburger tax. They'll get information from the city collector's office about the A&P tax. Or if we notice a food truck selling food and they're not on our list, we'll go and introduce ourselves, let them know who we are, and give them the tax information that they need, so they're following.
We realize that most food trucks don't use cash register.
Well, that would, as long as they fill out their, tax form, you know, even if they're keeping hand receipts, as long as they fill out those tax forms and send in their payment with that, then that's acceptable. They can pay either in person, online, or send a check in the mail.
It sounds very, it sounds very difficult and
It really,
directed.
no, it really isn't difficult at all. You know, I think every restaurant and the food trucks need to get an occupation license. So when they do that, Sharon's office, they have a pile of our forms to give the caterers, food trucks, restaurant owners, our tax information, because all of that falls under the A&P tax. And so it's not a difficult process, it's just something that we have to be aware of and stay on
It
top
just
of.
sounds like a direct situation. What I'm saying, can you give me an average of a food truck?
It varies.
That's not good.
It varies. Yeah, are you talking how much taxes they pay?
Yeah.
Well, it varies. Some trucks may do extremely well, and others may not do as well as others. It depends how many days of the week they're serving, what location they're at, what it is they're serving. You know, there are some food trucks that close for a month or so during the summer while they travel. It really varies. By law, I can't give any specific
I
information.
understand. I just want to know the initial, where did this ordinance come from?
State law, state statute.
It hadn't been, I hadn't seen this since I've been here. I just wondered, was this a direct ordinance?
Well, the A&P ordinance has been in effect since 1978. So basically, we are taking our current outdated ordinance to come up to speed with what the state law implies in their statute. So our ordinance has been going on since 78.
I understand everything you're saying. I just wanted to make it clear to the public and everybody that was listening that it's something that probably a lot of them have not really been into. And I wonder, was this a direct to some of the vendors that we have?
Oh, absolutely not. No, this is,
That would be the right answer.
yes, absolutely not. This
That would be
is
the right
just
answer,
to
but
make
it
sure
may not
that
be what's right.
everybody is following current law. And then it's not directed at anybody or anything.
I'm not a vendor, but I realize the vendors live here
Mhm.
and they operate here. And I just want to make sure that they're not being pointed at.
They absolutely are not. And anybody, any vendor who has worked with our office knows that they are not being targeted or directed at. We have very good relationships with our vendors. We work with them. So I don't think there's any issue as far as anybody feeling that this is directed at them. We just want to make sure everybody is playing on the same playing field.
We're not gonna pass this tonight, are we?
So for the first reading.
Okay, good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Sherry, Madam Mayor, this, only reservation I don't have a reservation, I don't have a problem with passing this at all, but right now, there is not a, clear definition of food trucks or short-term rentals in the municipal code. And it's gonna require that our city collector, right now, if you do an Airbnb, we don't have anything saying it should be inspected, insured, it should have a license on the wall, contact information. So if a person rented an Airbnb and they caught fire and killed somebody, we don't have anything in place that have it where we could have where that person would give the city information where they could contact who's responsible. So it's gonna take, and I just encourage you to work with the city collector and the inspector and even the fire department in working this thing out. I got some sample legislation. I've been looking at that, talking to some colleagues of mine, Hot Springs and Little Rock, and what they're doing with short-term rentals. And a lot of people are doing beefed up ordinances because short-term rentals 10 years ago didn't really exist. You had a few people that may have a room they were renting. But this thing with Airbnb and these types of things, what I don't like about the way, once we pass this without any supplemental ordinances, most of the information that you're gonna get about people doing short-term rentals is gonna come from the internet. When these people should be registering with the city to say that I have a home, that I'm registering with Airbnb, I need to get the appropriate, business licenses for that, I need to, get with the inspection department, get it inspected, get with the fire department, get it inspected, be abreast of certain things like the noise ordinance, you can't have your people, and quite frankly, one of the problems we have with short-term rentals, the planning commission doesn't have a zoning application to where they can be, and the same thing kind of exists with food trucks. We really don't have the food trucks in the code where they can be, how they can operate, and we may have to have some public hearings, because there's a great debate there on whether food trucks can have a pole. Some of them have it, some of them don't, and we've allowed some to have, when really in our municipal code, the only way you can get a utility pole with electricity is you're doing construction. So there's a lot of stuff we're gonna have to clean up and make very specific to people related to short-term rentals. And I just, encourage you to work with the city collector, inspectors, and these people.
Absolutely. I think the city does need to have something on the books as far as short-term rentals. I agree.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, I just want to say, thank you for what you do. How does our city collector, Ms. Johnson, is y'all in agreement on this tax?
We're already taxes.
Are you all in agreement on this ordinance, this resolution?
Yeah, well,
Ordinance, are y'all in agreement on it? I mean,
the ordinance specifically applies to A&P tax, advertising and promotion, which, we're already collecting on hotels, motels. What this ordinance does is it just specifies that homes for rent or rooms for rent would be included in the short-term rental. So, yeah, I think.
can we ask her opinion as well, both of y'all, and it's in the same category? And where is all, I'm speaking, and where is all this money going? Which one?
Okay, so the money, we collect 2% of repaired food, 3% short-term lodging tax, which primarily comes from hotels, motels. So we collect the A&P commission, which the ordinance that you're looking at specifically relates to the A&P commission. We collect, this year we're expected to collect 1.6 million. Over $1 million of that goes to the convention center. Then we also have money that we use for grant funding to support year-round funding for different facilities such as Taylor Field, Heston Stadium, the Arts and Science Center, so on and so forth. We events that take place in Pine Bluff. My operating budget, advertising and promotion for the entire city. So, $1 million of that, like I said, goes straight to the convention center, a little over $1 million. So with what we're left with, we promote the city as far as events and year-round funding for our other attractions. But that's where that money goes to.
Can we get an opinion from Ms. Johnson?
I don't understand.
I don't
what
think-
opinion you're looking for.
Yeah, this
Y'all in the same arena. Y'all in the same arena for this tax claim. I mean, does she have any?
This is just A&P.
Yeah,
That's
Still.
She doesn't handle the A&P tax though. This has nothing to do with the city tax. This is a completely separate tax that
That's what I'm
comes.
saying, is it gonna benefit our citizens in overall?
I think it benefited tonight with Mr. Brewer, didn't it?
Yes, it absolutely did.
That's what they do.
We sponsor, groups such as Gloves Not Guns. Again, this tax has been in effect since 1978. So it isn't anything new, and it's completely separate from the city tax.
That's what I was thinking, It's a cash flow by itself.
Which is why there's a commission by law. We have to have a commission to accept this money. And that's why the commission was created in '78.
This just cleans up the language of the ordinance. It's not, you're not adding anything new other than just specifying that certain things such as food trucks are also fall in, Airbnbs all fall inside.
All that I'm saying is just, it's tax money being spent.
Okay,
Tax money being collected,
Collect-
not being spent.
Well, collect it, spend it.
Mayor, can we thank you, Mr. Moore?
You're welcome.
This is up for the first reading. Can we move on?
You're gonna be back in the next meeting.
Place it on the cap. Agenda item number 8, a resolution approving the temporary closing of portions of South Taft Street and East 24th Avenue to promote public safety, health, and welfare.
Whereas unlawful dumping of waste is a continuing problem within the city, particularly along certain wooded areas of South Taft Street and East 24th Avenue. And whereas this illegal activity fouls land and air, attracts vermin, and breeds harmful bacteria. And whereas the public safety, health, and welfare will be promoted by the temporary closing of certain portions of these streets to prevent continued illegal dumping. And whereas section 24-5 of the city code authorizes the temporary blocking or closure of a city street for the public safety, health, and welfare. And whereas the flow of traffic will not be adversely affected by this action. Now therefore be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Pine Bluff, Arkansas, that South Taft Street from its intersection with West Shore 13th Avenue southward until the entrance of Galilee Missionary Baptist Church north of West 6th Avenue is temporarily closed for the public health and welfare. Section 2, East 24th Avenue from its intersection with Indiana Avenue eastward to the driveway for the residents located at 1105 East 24th Avenue is temporarily closed for the public health and welfare. Section 3, the street department will erect barricades to block the use of these roadways until further notice. The police department will enforce the closure.
Move to adopt.
Second.
It has been properly moved and seconded that a resolution approving the temporary closing of portions of South Taft Street and East 24th Avenue to promote public safety and health and welfare be approved. The floor is open for discussion. Hearing none, all in favor of this resolution, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution approved.
Agenda item number 9, a resolution approving the purchase of a Fix software for the street department.
Whereas the street department obtained proposals from different vendors to provide software and supporting services to facilitate its responses to service requests and in-work management. And whereas the firm of Civic Plus provided the best proposal and software package, training, professional, and recurring services for the reported price and an agreement should be executed with the firm consistent with the proposal. Now therefore be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Pine Bluff, Arkansas, that the mayor and street department director are authorized to execute a contract with Civic Plus in substantial conformity with the firm's proposal to provide the software, training, professional, and recurring services set forth in the proposal for the consideration set forth therein on page 9 and other terms and conditions standard in the field.
Move for adoption.
Second.
It has been properly moved and seconded that a resolution approving the purchase of Fix software for the street department be approved. The floor is open for discussion. Councilman Whitfield.
Thank you, Mayor. I know I was getting late, but we want to ask Mr. Bennett's question. I think I already answered it for the sake of the council. I'm one that believe and make sure that everybody, plus I want at least everybody to see his suit he's wearing. I think when a man work all day, go home and dress like he dressed to come before. That's I want to commend him for that. A question that came up at the meeting, this is software other entities such as, I'm code enforcement officer, Ms. Williams, looks at this program and decide that she wants to get on it, she can tag on to it at what cost?
No, this package is set up for basically unlimited departments to add on if they have opportunity to observe it. This should be applicable to the development of the department. They provide unlimited training throughout the contract period. Mormel and Fayetteville utilize the software package and their response from their residents are substantial. Record keeping, ability to prepare work orders, computerized, and also this software enables you to download the app where you take a picture of a pothole or a sign missing or a bad road area, send it to the server, and that server will do a map ID with a status report.
And you all will be able to respond back
Yes.
once it's completed.
If that request go in and creates a work order and it's filed into a data bank and the operations and maintenance crew will take the order and execute it. Once resolved, they are noted and the resident have opportunity to see progress from beginning to end if they choose to.
Thank you so much. I knew that, and I want the council to know it because you attended the public works meeting. Thank you, sir. Okay.
One of the things I would like to add to what Mr. Bennett was saying, usually when I meet with department heads and they're adding something new, I ask them where the money is coming from and what a line item in your budget is coming from. He was proud to say, Councilman Alexander is buying for me. So Councilman Alexander, we applaud you because each council member was allocated $25,000 at the beginning of the year for a project. And we thought the project could be for your maybe award. But Ms. Alexander, we applaud you because you're helping on something that's citywide. So thank you for that.
I want to go on record.
Am I right on that?
Yeah, but I want to go on record that she was at the meeting, she did say that. And I'm in a position that we can gladly pay. I don't want to take all of her money. I think it's $17,000.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we're going up between the two.
That's for the first year and then it can go up to 24,000.
Yes, ma'am.
I think the value we're going to get out of it can be well worth it. So,
Okay.
yes, we'll decide to that. Thank you, Mr. Bennett. Thank you all committee for researching it. Appreciate it.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor of this resolution, let it be known by saying aye. Any opposed? Resolution approved.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we adjourn.
But just before we do that,
We have,
I'm sorry. With that, I forgot to mention that we're still in a heat wave. So please check on the elderly and your relatives. Thank you.
thank you. We have, 3 speakers, but we had 3. Mr. Blue is already gone. Our next speaker is Charles Banks. Our first speaker, Charles Banks. Is Charles Banks here? Okay. Moving on, Teresa L. Stewart. Is Ms. Stewart here?
Good afternoon
Good afternoon, Ms. Stewart.
to everybody. Good afternoon, Nick is gotten still this weekend. But anyway, I'm Theresa L. Stewart, to those of you who were not here the last time, and I was out of order. And I did extend an apology for talking when I had not scheduled. And what I'm concerned about, once again, Mayor, is that there were 10 people that did not get the cost of living raise. And you have to beg my pardon, if I miss a penny, I want to know where that penny went. But I would like to know, why did not the 10 get the cost of living raise? Second part of that is, if they didn't get it, then where did the money go? I'm a resident of Pine Bluff, Arkansas. I was born and bred here. And I was gone 30 years and I'm back, and I've been back 21 years. So this is why I am asking, it may be, it's simple to me, but I don't know what it would be to you guys, but I really would like to know, if those 10s did not get the cost of living raise, why did they not get it? And if they didn't get it, I'd like to know, where did the money go to? Where did you put that money?
Ms. Stewart, they did get a raise, but the raise didn't bring them up to 30,000. And I think that was the issue on the table at that time.
Well,
But since then, there has been legislation passed.
Just a minute, I'm sorry, just a minute. I wrote my notes and you said 10 did not get the cost of living raise.
No,
So that's why I was asking that question again.
Councilman Whitfield.
Thank you, Mayor. I understand your concern and I applaud you for that, but I sponsored the resolution and what it said was they got the cost of living raise. They got the raise that was done by the survey. But what I was attempting to do was to have all full-time employees of the city not to be under $30,000. There was 10 people that was under $30,000.
Okay,
And it would have taken $30,000 to bring everybody up. But
okay,
since the last meeting, I did bring it back to the table
okay.
and it was passed. So they got the cost of living raise and then they got another $600 or $800 to bring them above the 30,000. So it is in effect now.
I understand, because I did miss that last meeting.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, all of you.
Thank you for your concern for
Oh, I'm
those.
gonna do that, because I came back from the state.
Welcome
So
home.
I'm here for quite a while.
Welcome home.
I thank you.
Thank you so much. We'll see you all on the 14th for our meeting, second meeting of the month.